This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Tired of losing in fantasy sports? Times are changing. Now it's just you versus the numbers. Prize Picks is the perfect place for you whether you are the biggest sports fan around or you're a seasoned vet in the daily fantasy space. On Prize Picks, you simply select 2 to 5 players and predict if they will go over or under their fantasy projection. Think Denny Hamlin is going to win the big race? Take his over and win real cash today. Prize Picks gives you the chance to win 10 times your money for getting 4 predictions correct. Entries are so simple. They can be made in less than 60 seconds. Sign up today at prizepicks.com or on the PrizePicks app and use code DIRTYAIR, that's DIRTYAIR, DIRTYAIR, to get a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. PrizePicks truly is daily fantasy simplified. Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 22 of Dirty Air, your number one podcast for all DFS gambling-related NASCAR talk. After 1 week off, we're back. I'm your host, Ryan Baumel, Gambling DFS Tips on Twitter. As always, I am joined by Jason, DFS NASCAR on Twitter. Jason, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys?
And Brandon Cruz, DFS on Twitter. Brandon, say hi.
Howdy.
So we were off last week, so Pocono's kind of too far back to go back to, so I don't know if there's really much to go there. A couple
we missed
things
2 weeks, actually.
Did we?
Missed 2 weeks, yeah.
So they're coming up, so some of those stats might come up later, but we can do a quick Road America recap. Obviously not too much different. It's a road course that Chase Elliott won again. Jason, was it a good race or a bad race?
I don't see what all the hoopla was about. Like on Twitter, it seemed like everybody was pretty excited about that race and thought it was just some phenomenal race and it was so great and they can't wait to go back to Coda. I thought it was pretty dull. I know at one point I walked in the house and my stepdad was sitting there watching TV, watching it, and he was sound asleep. So I know it had to be riveting. It just seemed like, not a lot of passing. They're just another fuel mileage strategy road course. What we've been seeing, but you know what? Road courses are fine because they're predictable. It was kind of crappy DFS. We had a lot of chalk, but it was an easy week to make a little bit of cash, and I guess we'll take it and move on.
Brandon, good race, bad race?
Yeah, it was pretty boring. It all went downhill when all the good drivers didn't even get a lap in and they all started from the back. So it was basically 3 slates in a row where you just had chalk at Pocono and then second Pocono race, and then this one it was pretty boring.
So I got a question for you. So you had a tweet about how you were so excited that July 4th week, obviously sarcastic, but July 4th weekend we were spending at Road America. Something about how they could be running 3 wide at Daytona. Oh wait, we're at Road America, something like that.
Yeah,
but to be fair, you did complain about Daytona earlier. So wouldn't you want like July 4th weekend at let's say Dover? Like wouldn't that be an ideal Brandon race?
When have I ever complained about Daytona? I need to hear this because I know I never trash talked where Dale died.
Talked about Daytona.
Wasn't that when we were talking about earlier this year how they in the Daytona 500 how they race differently than how they used to, how they're just now basically single file 2 cars for the whole time?
Well, yeah, but I'd rather see guys going 200 than.
Well, yeah.
As an experience, I'd much rather go to Daytona than Road America. I'd much rather watch Daytona than Road America.
Oh yeah, I can promise you that being at. I'm sure the fans in Wisconsin had a great time at Coda. I'm sure it was a great atmosphere, and they haven't had the Cup Series there. It was probably great seeing those cars on the track and getting to cheer on their drivers, but. It ain't nothing like Daytona, obviously. Daytona under the lights, fireworks going off. That's what we fortunately used to be. I can't believe they took it away, and now, at least we still get Daytona in the season. I guess that's kind of exciting, but fireworks in Daytona has always been my life,
Yeah, obviously, but I'm the kind of guy that when everyone says the Daytona 500 sucked, I'm like, that was a great race. So I like Daytona even when the races suck.
Yeah, but you're new. You didn't see Junior win and Mikey kiss him on the infield, live.
Biting your nails on the edge of your seat, in the last 3 laps.
I remember being little and being like, why are they black flagging Stewart? He didn't do nothing wrong. He got forced to the bottom. And to this day, every time I see that, I'm like, Stewart should have finished 3rd. He should have won that race. But they gave him the black flag because they needed Junior to win.
Yeah. So, I guess speaking of Daytona, the news we have this week for NASCAR is the change of the banking and the pavement at Atlanta. Jason, a lot of people on Twitter are saying that it seems like NASCAR is trying to make super speedway racing at some of these smaller mile-and-a-half tracks. Is that what you see? Kind of explain the pavement, the banking, what they're changing, and what you think it's going to change.
Well, I mean, that's kind of obvious with like the 550 horsepower package. They're trying to bunch these cars up. They want it to be pack racing every week. That's what this banking is going to achieve. Every time you increase the banking on the track, you make the cars easier to turn the corner, and there's going to be less off-throttle time. But probably won't have any off-throttle time. Probably with the next gen car, we're anticipating it being a lower horsepower car, probably going to be stuck to the track. I mean, it's just they're trying to make all these mile and a halves to be Daytona and Talladega, and I just like Daytona and Talladega because they're special. You know, you see them 4 times a year. If you every week, it's just going to get annoying, you know, to where like I think those like Cinderella stories of like a Michael McDowell winning, you know, at Daytona. Those are special because they happen at Daytona and Talladega, you know, four chances a year. Not like if it's every week, that's going to get old. I promise.
I want to use this analogy. I don't know if you guys watched Monster Jam a ton, like back in the 2000s, but Monster Jam changed when everybody started doing backflips and double backflips and stuff. You know, back when they were crushing cars, and it was wild when somebody, you know, went in reverse over a jump, or like in the X Games when Travis Pastrana was first trying to do, you know, a double backflip or something. Like now that Monster Jam, you know, you see backflips every week, the excitement and the, you know, specialty around, you know, those stunts, you know, that dissipates here. You know, when you start, you know, going to, you know, speedway racing, you know, every week, it gets kind of dull. And it's either going to be a single file wreck fest or a single file snooze fest on the bottom, or just double wide and nobody can pass at the new Atlanta.
Well, that's the problem, is they've tried this. They've been trying to make this work, and they can't. I mean, everything they've tried to throw out these tracks to make these cars bunched up, it hasn't produced the type of racing they want. I've been saying it for years. If you want to bunch these cars up, you got to increase the drag, slow down the lead car, and then they can't get away. And you know you're always gonna have the leader get caught from behind. I mean, if they really want to like cheapen up the racing, but why we gotta? I don't know, it seems like they're spending a lot of money and a lot of development in the wrong places. It's just, I mean, make it be about going the fastest you can around the track. Like, why? How hard is that? Like, whoever can get the car around the track the fastest wins the goddamn race.
I was telling Jason before you joined us, Ryan, that it's crazy seeing the entire NASCAR, you know, like community, like crew chiefs, drivers, old team owners, like they're all complaining about this Atlanta change. It's hard to unify the fan base on anything, but man, NASCAR sure knows how to do it.
So Brandon, for the idiots like me, can you explain what the basic changes that they're making just to the track?
Well, they're increasing the banking in the corners. I believe they're going like to 28 or 29, and I'm pretty sure Bristol's at like 26, 27 degrees of banking. So imagine, you know, Bristol banking at Atlanta. That's basically what it is.
All right. Anything else to go over with that before we get into this week, which happens to be at Atlanta?
I'm sure we could probably talk about it for longer, but it's probably pointless. Let's just move on and get into some DFS. That's why we're all here. Oh, Brandon's got something to say.
I got something to say before I forget. Yeah, he saw me smiling. I have to salute all the fans going this week, because I can't think of a more miserable experience than sitting out in the sun in the middle of July at Atlanta with 70% humidity. Like that is not fun. The track should be paying them to be there.
So, as you said, we are at Atlanta this week. I hope they're letting them bring in coolers. That's all I can say. If they're not letting them bring in coolers this week, it could be it's like that's a humanity crisis on our hands.
So this week, Quaker State.
Wait, I got something else to say.
At Atlanta Motor Speedway, 400 miles, 260 laps, 80 laps stage 1, 80 laps stage 2, 100 laps in stage 3. Chase is on the pole. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex to the top 5. Jason, your initial thoughts on this week at Atlanta?
I think the first thing that probably jumps off the page for everybody is, we got $12,000 Kyle Larson. We're finally at a point to where they got Kyle Larson priced up. I know they've been pricing him up, right? But this is a week that he could probably pay that kind of a price tag up with the type of dominator points on the slate. So it's going to really decide your lineup construction is what you're going to do with Kyle Larson. in my first view of this slate, it appears to me like obviously we know Kyle Larson is the favorite, and that's you got to probably kind of jam him. It depends on like what you're gonna do with Kyle Larson from that point. If this is gonna end up being a 2 dominator build, or if you're gonna go the point that we've seen being effective the last few weeks on these mile and a halves, a Kyle Larson single dominator type build could be effective.
So before we get into obviously the player by players, you were mentioning whether a single dominator versus double dominator. Brandon, how are you approaching this in terms of a lineup construction?
So I'm looking at my projections. It's either you do what Jason just said, assume Larson is going to lead because we have to. He's the fastest guy out there. This is a track that is going to suit his style. This is temperature that's going to suit his style. So it's either Larson runs away with this race, or a situation where it's Larson, and I personally think it's one of the Joe Gibbs drivers, either Kyle Busch, Truex Jr., or Hamlin. I think it's one of those guys, or Byron and Bowman. That's a situation I would go. So if I'm kind of going in 3 different roads this week. I'm going to do, single Larson lineups, and then I'm going to do some where I'm probably going to attack Kyle Busch really heavily. I think Kyle Busch can do extremely well in this race this week.
So you like the idea of playing Larson and Kyle Busch together?
Yeah.
See, like that's where I'm kind of like at a toss up here, is because it's when you look at you just know like how Larson has been, and it's like it doesn't seem like he's had like even in the past, like before he got to Hendrick, it seemed like when he was competitive in a race and a contender to win the race, he like just led a shit ton of laps. When his car was hooked up, he was going to be out front the majority of the time. So it's like it's hard for me to believe like if Larson's hooked up, that he's going to let Kyle be able to accumulate a lot of dominator points, I guess. I guess he could probably still get some fast laps behind him. So that, like, to me, like the 2 dominator approach would be like the approach I might go with that is like when I'm fading Larson. Like it would make more sense to me for like a Kyle Busch and like a Chase Elliott to share dominator points when you're fading Larson. That's just kind of like the way I'm looking at it right now. But like when you got guys like Byron, like you said, who also he doesn't like he's got some position differential on this slate, so he doesn't need those dominator points per se. So if you play him, but I do like the Hamlin call too. So
yeah, and I think Bowman is criminally underpriced.
I know, yeah.
And so I think Larson, Bowman is going to be popular. Bowman in general, but I think the combination of Larson and Bowman will be very popular.
All right, so we kind of already started talking about it a little bit, but let's go through the guys at the top. The 10K and up guys. Kyle Larson, highest priced guy on the slate, $12K. Kevin Harvick, he starts 21st, so some place differential built in there. He's 10.9. Ryan Blaney, who starts 15th, is 10.5. Kyle Busch starts second, is 10.3. William Byron is 10K. Jason, 2 questions. One, obviously we talked a little bit about who you like. Who do you like in this range? And also, can you see yourself playing a Larson Kyle Busch lineup together, or do you have to play them separate?
Me personally, I don't. I'm definitely probably not going that route. I think if I'm pairing anybody in this range right now with Larson, it's probably Byron above the 10K guys. But like how Brandon stated, I mean, with the pricing on a guy like Bowman, or even guys priced a little cheaper than that, and with some of the value on the slate, which we'll get into later, I mean, Byron would be the play that I would probably go with here with Larson if I was pairing him. But you could probably play like a Kyle Busch. What do you think about like Harvick? Like, do you think a lot of people are going to play Harvick right now, starting 21st, with how great his track history has been? I mean, do you think people are going to look into that, or is this just you have to show me it, Harvick?
I'm not playing Harvick, but mainly due to the fact that how hot it is, and so most of the races at Atlanta have been second, third, fourth race in the season, and it's normally in February/March. This is the hottest it's been. The only race that it was like this was last year when they came back from COVID and they ran it in June. And when that race was hot, when the track was warm, you saw Harvick struggling. And that's kind of why I'm leaning more towards Truex, Hamlin, and Busch, because you saw the Joe Gibbs drivers run extremely well in that race early. And then we had cloud cover, and the temperature went down a lot. I think track temperature went from like 130, 135 to like 199, 95, somewhere around there. And that's when you saw Harvick be able to do his line. And that's why you saw Harvick, I believe he ended up winning that race, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't like Harvick in this temperature at all.
I do like when you're looking at like pricing though, like how you said with like Truex. Truex is one of those guys priced at 9K. Like I know he's been struggling, but priced at 9K, he's an interesting guy to pair with Larson as that second dominator because he doesn't need to get nearly as much as Kyle Busch, and he's actually ran, I mean, pretty consistently on these mile and a half this season. He just hasn't had like that dominator type speed that we want. But like at this price tag now, you just need him to run top 4 or top 3, And if he does happen to find his way to the front and steal some dominator points from Larson, that could be a good combination there. And a nice pivot off that chalk PD as well.
Mm-hmm. I also think that the temperature really is something we need to focus on because that's going to allow people who normally haven't been here or who haven't showed up at the previous intermediate tracks to show up. Like Charlotte was obviously ran at night, started in the day, but mainly ran at night where it was really cool. Nashville, kind of hot, but different package. Maybe Kansas, but it still wasn't this hot. So like, I think that's going to really help people who haven't been showing up and just go. I'm trying to find things to make you feel more confident about the Joe Gibbs drivers, but that's where I'm leaning this week.
You could be. I mean, they were good at Darlington too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Darlington seemed like it was raced as a slick track the last time they were there. I don't know what the temperature was like, but.
So, Brandon, you mentioned Harvick in this top range of guys that you're not necessarily looking to play.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody else in this 10K and up range that you wouldn't play as a single dominator? Anybody maybe like Byron or Blaney since they're starting too far back, or do you still think you could play them and just hope that, there's dominator point split at the beginning, and then at some point they get to the front mid of the race and lead the rest of the race?
It's probably Elliott. I don't think Elliott performs very well in this race at all.
But could you see yourself starting with like Ryan Blaney and Blaney being the only guy above 10K or William Byron, or do you think you need a Larson, a Kyle Busch, one of these other guys?
I think you're going to need 2 of them. Even like when you look back at the race that Larson, quote unquote, dominated in the spring, you still needed 2 dominators. It was Blaney and Larson. I still think this is a 2 dominator race. I don't think it's just pure Larson and place differential after that.
I think he's talking specifically to that 10K range though, like as far as like guys there.
Yeah,
right?
but if you're in the 10K range, like I think you need to play 2 guys in the 10K or 2 guys 9, maybe even.
No, I would say 2 guys 9, right? Yeah, above 9. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Let me look at my.
The last optimal was Larson was 10.4 and Blaney was 9.2. That was the 2 highest guys on there, and Blaney started 10th.
I'm seeing a lot of 2 guys and 3 guys from up there. Just depends. I mean, I'm playing a lot of the 9K and up range. I'm not afraid of that. And we'll talk about the drivers that I'll probably be using a lot of, probably over the field when we get to them because of that.
Jason, is Ryan Blaney going to be popular because he won here earlier this year?
I would think so. I don't know. People like to look at past history. They're going to see that win there. So, and starting 15th, I would say he's probably going to carry a decent amount of ownership. Like I said, I'm really not leaning that way because I'm probably going to be playing Kyle Larson. I don't want to touch another 10K guy with Kyle Larson. So, like I said,
who do you think is the highest owned guy in this 10K range, or do you think there's
Kyle
no
Larson.
That's going to be? And how? What do you are we talking chalky or not as what we've normally seen from Larson?
Maybe 45%, 50% probably. He's going to be pretty chalky, I would say. I mean, he's been just so damn good. And then I would say the next highest guy is going to be Byron. Start 19th, he's been really good too. Then maybe Harvick, Blaney, Kyle Busch, something like that. Blaney, Harvick, Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch is probably the least owned guy here.
Brandon, is that your similar thoughts on ownership at the top?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
All right, so let's get into this next range. I think there's some value here in this next range, the 9K range. Chase Elliott, $9,800. Denny Hamlin's $96. Alex Bowman, $94. Keselowski, $92. Martin Truex, $9K. Brandon, I'll start with you this time. In this 9K range, we talked about a couple of these guys already. Who are you looking to play and who are you looking to fade?
So I already told you I don't like Elliott. I'm interested in Hamlin. I like Bowman. I'm not going to play Keselowski. I like Truex. And I guess that's 9K range. So really the only guys I'm looking at from here would be Hamlin and Bowman and Truex.
And it sounds like Elliott's a strong fade for you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'm not going to play Elliott.
Jason, how about your thoughts on this 9K range?
Yeah, as far as like this 9K range, like how I'm approaching it would be like who in this range that I would be playing with Kyle Larson would be, Alex Bowman is a guy that I like in this range. And I think also guys like Martin Truex and Denny Hamlin are interesting options that you could pair with Larson. Because like I said, still Hamlin priced at 9,600 is still pretty cheap. You got to like that discount because what that can get you. And he's been, one of the fourth best driver so far in this package on the 1.5 miles this season. And he's actually been a guy who's shown the speed that's had some dominator points, 10 plus dominator point type days on these 1.5 miles, a little better than his teammate Martin Truex. So I think those are really the three guys that I'm looking to pair with Larson. But if I'm looking like not when I'm in my fade Larson lineups, that's where Chase Elliott becomes a little interesting to me, because I think this is a race where you can see Elliott get out front and lead a bunch of laps and steal a lot of points from Larson. So especially if maybe his teammate don't race him that hard, maybe Larson just kind of rides a little bit and less. We've seen that happen where just guys just not going to push their teammate as hard, especially if it's a slick track and if Elliott gets out with the clean air.
Is there
I would
go ahead.
I was going to say that was my initial thought, and I'm giving Elliott leading up until the competition caution, but I don't see Elliott leading outside of that.
Okay.
Like leaving the competition caution, I think that just hurts Elliott.
Elliott was fast at Atlanta though, right before. Remember, wasn't he like really fast right after the start of Atlanta this year, and then he had that incident on pit road that kind of
he blew a motor.
Then he blew his motor, right? So is that the same race or is that a different race I'm thinking about where he had the damage on pit road?
No, he was fast in the. I think it was this one. I know that was Las Vegas as well. To start the year, he had incidents at both Las Vegas. He had incidents at Las Vegas and Atlanta, but
Las Vegas may have been the one that he was really fast off at the get, and then he had the damage on pit road because he still finished 13th that race. So. But regardless, we've seen him have speed, and there's something to be said about momentum, right? He has been running up front quite a bit recently, and it's a Hendrick car. It would not surprise me to see, like I said, if you're looking to get off Larson and go like a Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott type stack, I think those two guys could pay off together.
Jason, is there any strong fade for you in this 9K range where you would say don't play somebody?
I don't think there'd be any really strong fade for me. No, I think even Keselowski is a touch interesting down there, starting 14th. This range is kind of like why I'm not really interested in that 10K range pairing with Kyle Larson, because there's a lot of similar plays right here in this 9K range for cheaper. A lot of guys who offer PD. Keselowski, he finishes 11th, a third in the second, a second at Vegas, third at Kansas this year. He scored over 20 dominator points in three of the 1.5 mile tracks this season. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Keselowski get out there and have a good run Sunday.
All right, so next the 8K range. Joey Logano, 88. Chris Buescher, 86. Kurt Busch, 84. Christopher Bell is 82. Eric Almirola is 8K. Jason, what are your thoughts on this 8K range?
Only guy I really like here is Chris Buescher. He's the only. Logano's okay here in this range. 8,800 for Logano is cheap, but I think Chris Buescher, starting 18th, he's going to offer you that position differential that we're looking for. And he's ran. We've seen how Roush has ran with this 550 horsepower package on his 1.5 miles. So they've ran great. He ran great at Atlanta earlier this year. He's got 3 straight top 10s on the 1.5 miles. I don't think a lot of people are going to play him because they just don't want to pay $8,600 for Chris Buescher. But I think a top 10 is well within his wheelhouse again this week.
See, you and I are in two different sides of this coin this week. I think Buescher is a horrible play. I see him finishing like 11th, 12th, 10th maybe, but I don't see him getting inside the top 10, and I certainly don't see him outscoring other drivers. Like right now, I'm giving him 38 points, and I don't see it. Like even if I go overboard and give,
like, he's gonna finish in 8th.
Even though I give him like 8th, that's what is that? That's around 45 points. That's barely over.
That's well over 5x.
What was that?
Plus, he's picked up 3, 4 dominator points in each of the last 3 as well. So give him 3 dominator points as well. That's
what am I doing? 46. That's 5.3. That's not. Yeah, that's too much, and that's going to hurt your line if you're paying up for 2 guys in the 9K range. But maybe, I guess you're not going my way, and so you'll probably with more Buescher, because I don't like Buescher at all. In fact, the only other person I like here is Eric Almirola. Like, he's the only guy in the 8K range that I like.
All right, well, that makes it quick. Jason likes one guy, Brandon likes one guy, not much else to talk about. Is there any just because you don't like the other guys doesn't necessarily mean there's strong fades or there's strong hate for reasons. Is
zero interest in playing Kurt Busch starting eighth, zero interest playing Christopher Bell starting fourth. I mean, those guys would be strong fades for me.
Okay. Let's get to the 7K range. Austin Dillon starts 13th. He's 7,900. Suarez starts 27th after the issues he had at the beginning of the race last week. He's 7,700. Matty D is 7,500. Ryan Preece 7,400, starting pretty much in the back in 34th. Chastain starts 9th at 7,200, and Tyler Reddick is 7,100. Brandon, your thoughts on the 7K range?
I love Austin Dillon. Love Daniel Suarez. You can't make heads or tails on Chastain. He has to have an out. He has to have another career day to do much of anything. So I just like Dillon and Suarez here.
We agree on this range. Yes, those are the two plays I like in this range: Austin Dillon and Daniel Suarez. And it's part of the reason, I'm okay. Why I like going with Larson, the 1.9K range is you can fit both these guys into a lineup, and I think they both can pay off. And Dillon can definitely run top 10. He's shown the ability to do that all season in his mile and a half. And Suarez, how do you not like that play from 27th as well as that team has ran here? I guess GPP wise, maybe Benedetto's might be a little interesting, but that's just would be like if you're throwing $1 in a GPP because no one's going to own him. I think there's an outside chance he might show up and run top 10, but that would really be it in this range.
Do we think Ryan Preece is going to be popular, or do they price him up enough that we think he's not going to be as popular?
I won't know. I think he'll still be popular because he's starting 34th there. And when you're looking at, the guys his price around, there's a lot of people love that fucking 30 plus starting position. I think people will still play him. I have zero interest in him for that price, though, starting 34th. $7,400, that's pretty steep.
Yeah, I'm giving. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do we think he's the highest owned guy in this range, or maybe Suarez potentially? I'm not sure who we would think would be the highest owned guy in this range.
It should be Suarez because I got Preece for 29 points. I don't see it from Preece at all.
No, neither do I. But did he finish what? Oh, it was 20. I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay, scratch that. I saw his 15th place finish at Vegas and thought that was Atlanta and thought that would drive people to him. But no, he finished 25th at Atlanta this year. Like I said, the only reason people would play him is because they think he's safe, but he could easily finish 29th.
All right, so let's get to when I took when I first looked at this, I thought this was the range that had a lot of different options, some value, the 6K range. And we'll go through these guys. So Eric Jones is 6,900, Cole Custer 6,700, Ricky Stenhouse is 6,600, Chase Briscoe 64, Bubba Wall 63, Ryan Newman 61, and I'm going to throw Michael McDowell here at 5'9". Jason, your initial thoughts on this range? Seems like a lot of guys with some good place differential and potential high upside.
Yeah, I think there's some solid plays in this range. I think Ricky is a decent play here, starting the 16th for 6,600. Atlanta's a great track for him. He's ran well in this package. Obviously, this year he's shown his ability to run well in this package. Starting 16th, he can definitely pay off there. Then obviously we know Newman coming in starting 29, 6,100. That's it's a solid play. He definitely has top 20 upside here. Probably going to be. A lot of these guys, they're going to be very high owned. I think Newman, McDowell even is a solid play, and then Bubba even. I like all four of those guys here in this range.
Brandon, am I crazy for thinking Ryan Newman's going to be the highest owned guy on the slate?
I called it in my video when I recorded earlier today. I think Newman's optimal. I have him as the best value on the entire slate at 7.1. I think you have to play Newman. That's chalk that I think you just need to eat. And if you're trying to get different, I think fading Newman's your first place to do it because the situations where he doesn't work are so small. You'll get a huge leverage on the field if something happens to him. But I think it's hard to see Newman not finish inside the top 15 in this race.
Jason, even thoughts?
Yeah. He only needs to finish top 20, right?
I was gonna say he top 20. He's optimal, but I'm giving him 15th, 14th, somewhere around there. I'm just gonna play him.
Why the hate from DraftKings? Why this price for Ryan Newman is weird to me. They could have got him up to 7K in that 7K range. They could even have moved somebody like a a Reddick down into the 6K range, for like 6,900. I don't think it would affect his ownership at all.
I almost thought Newman would be in that like Priest range, like the 7,200, 7,300, something
yeah,
like
you
that.
price up Priest, who hasn't done shit on these tracks, and you don't do nothing with Newman.
Brandon, what other thoughts on this 6K range outside Ryan Newman?
So I'm probably going to either live or die here. I love Jones, I love Custer, and I love Wallace. And I know this is the 5K range, but the lowest I would go in general is Corey LaJoie. And so because of that, I'm using a lot of Jones, a lot of Custer, a lot of Wallace and Newman.
Well, Jason, that was going to be my question that he answered. Is there anybody else below this range you would go to, potentially LaJoie 57? What's the lowest price guy you see yourself using?
Lowest price guy I see myself seeing is Michael McDowell. I don't think I'm going lower than him. Once you get down there, I mean, you can maybe make a case for Alfredo, but you would need a lot of incidents to happen in front of him for that to pay off. And I'm not sure what that gets you, saving 400 to go Alfredo over McDowell or something like that. So I'm not really sure where that sets the rest of your lineup at. But I don't think there's no need to, especially if you're building a Larson lineup. If you're not really looking to try to jam in another 10K guy, go with it. You don't need to go any lower than 5,900. You don't really need to squeeze in too many of the 6K guy range. Like, I think you can play two of these guys and two of the guys in that 7K range and then a 9K and Larson and build a pretty solid lineup.
Brandon, at first glance, if you're 20 maxing, who are the two guys that you think you'd have the most exposure to? Obviously, it sounds like Newman's probably up there. Who's the other guy?
Well, let me tell you. So right now, and this is just kind of my lineups ran. I'm not saying I'm playing these, but right now it's looking like it's Newman and Wallace. And Eric Amarola.
And how, in terms of a potential 20 max, are we looking at 50, 60%? What kind of exposure do you think you're looking at towards them potentially? Because I know people have different thoughts on how high you want to go. Some people, sometimes I'll 100% guide 20 max. I know it's stupid, but some guys, hey, I'll never do over 60 or 70. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done 100% in 20 max, but if I've done 75. Like if I'm doing Newman, probably highest I want to go with Newman is 60, and that's probably still over what the field's going to do, so I don't need to do any more than that. I'm probably going to have 65% Eric Amarola just because I don't think his ownership's going to come anywhere close to that. And I just like Eric Amarola as a play. And Wallace too, like it depends on what I'm trying to do with my lineups. Like I think if I'm making a lot of 3-dominator lineups, I can't do my Eric Amarola play, but then I'll probably do more Wallace and Custer, if that makes sense.
Jason, same question to you.
I just think it's baffling that as with everything we talked about how slick this track's going to be, and that your favorite plays are the guys who probably had the most trouble this year, Amarola and Bubba Wallace.
I know, which is well, no, so Eric Amarola's had a ton of bad luck.
I know.
But if you look at last year, especially in the higher temperature races, he did really well. That's when he was still doing his that's when he was running well. He said at when did they qualify? Not Road America. When was the last time they qualified before Pocono? Or I think it was Pocono.
It was
anyway,
Coda, right?
Yeah, maybe Coda. One of those. He was saying that, like, hey, part of the reason why we've been struggling is because we haven't been able to start any better. Like, once you wreck and you start dead last or in the back of the field, you basically spend 2/4 of the race not even working on your car, just trying to get through the field. I think him starting 20th really helps him actually, go back to performing well.
Yeah, I like the angle. I like the call there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to him, but I definitely see the angle there, and I see, like I said, last year what was where he kind of picked up was kind of Pocono last year, right? Is when he started making kind of a run for some solid runs. But I think it was also earlier in the season than that. I think he had some good success on Mile and Half as well last season.
Yeah, I mean, look at his finishes this year. So Daytona 500 wreck, Homestead wreck, Las Vegas wreck, Bristol Dirt wreck, Kansas 29th, Darlington wreck, Dover wreck. I mean, he's basically DNF'd on situations that weren't his control, races that actually, he was able to drive. Nashville was the one that when he ran fourth at Nashville because he was able to qualify well. We saw his speed, and that's where he should have been starting this entire year if we had qualifying. And so that's why I'm gonna be overweight on Eric Almirola, because I want to be ahead of the curve from when his ownership should go up. Eric Almirola should be a top 10 contender.
But that makes
Starting
sense, why you don't like Busher then. If you love Almirola that much, then I definitely get why you don't have any interest in paying $600 more for Busher. I get it.
Yeah.
Jason, outside of, so I'm gonna say 9,500. There's nobody 9,500, but below 9,500, who's the most likely winner of this race?
Oh, I'm gonna go.
Is it Alex Bowman?
Alex Bowman, probably, yeah. Winner? Oh, we're saying winner. Yeah, I'll go Martin Truex. I still think he might have slightly more win equity than Alex Bowman here. Martin Truex.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Any other final thoughts on this week before we get to 2 and done?
Can't think of anything, man. Can't think of nothing.
I just will go back. I know we're talking about Newman and being chalk and all that, and I do feel like it's very important. Like when you're composing lineups and you're looking to fade chalk, I think it's important to remember, like a guy like Newman, when they're priced this low and they're starting this far back, like this is kind of like a chalk that I think that it doesn't hurt you as much when it does bust, because he's starting 29th, and obviously you want to be against him if he does bust. But I think I think when you're looking for guys as far as chalk to leverage against, I think you get better doing leveraging against the higher price chalk, I guess is what I'd say. So think about it when you're setting your lines.
I think that's a good point and a good DFS strategy, because people hear the word chalk and they think of it as like a negative connotation. And I think, and I'll get into this in football season, it's like there's good chalk all the time, and the good chalk most of the time is optimal, and you just have to eat it. And like you said, figure out what isn't. Don't just hear the word chalk and be like, oh, I got to fade him because there's ownership. If he's going to be optimal, he's going to be optimal. It doesn't matter whether he's 5% owned or 90% owned a lot of times. If he hits his value, he hits his value.
Yeah, and I guess that's just what the point I was going to make is, like, value chalk like that doesn't hurt your lineup near as much as like when you do that, when you hit that, like that 10K chalk, that bust, there's no recovering from that in your lineup because you're pretty much fucking done.
And him starting at the back obviously reduces the potential amount of negative points he can get,
And I was going to argue the opposite. So last week, like we all played the chalk, but the play, like if you're going to be different from the field, the play was to fade one of Kyle Busch or Chase Elliott. Obviously right now, like, hey, I didn't do that. People who did do that, they lost money. But like game theory wise, those are the types of plays you want to fade, because when they actually, bust, it gives you a huge advantage on the field. Whereas, like, I think Newman is good chalk. I think you should play him. But if I was going to fade somebody, it would be Newman, because he's going to carry so much ownership. You can automatically get different if something bad happens to him. That's a ton of those lineups that aren't necessarily killed because he doesn't get you a ton of negative points, but you don't have to worry about them. You don't have to compete against them.
Yeah, and I get that. I understand that completely. But I just like, isn't it like in NASCAR though? Like when if you have one guy, any guy in your lineup, fucking shit the bed. Like at that point, you're just praying for cash, right? So I mean, I don't know. So I mean, I guess it doesn't matter how high on the guy is. If you got a guy on your team that wrecks, it's gonna hurt you just as much. All
right, so let's get into the 2 and done. So we didn't have it from last week, but you got, like, nobody says anything, and then I start talking, and it's like, oh, why were you moving on?
No. You guys actually froze there for me. That's why I didn't say anything. You guys are all frozen, and you guys kind of stuttered on my end. So,
so we didn't have it last week. So the last time we did it 2 and done was the doubleheader at Pocono. So we'll recap that. So Jason, you had Kyle Larson, you had 45 points in the first race, 38 in the second race. That's 83 points total. Brandon, you had Denny Hamlin, 43 in the first race, 32 in the second race, 75 points total. And I had William Byron, 50 in the first race, 35 in the second race, 85 points total. So just another week that I'm the highest scorer.
Yeah.
How do I get fucking double Kyle Larson and lose? That's bullshit.
Well, see, I won't strategy. I'm just going to pick his teammate and hope his teammate does just as well.
It's that Goodyear tire, man.
Jesus Christ.
Goodyear tire.
So, all right. So go ahead.
I was going to say he had Larson blowing the tire out of 3, and I had Hamlin run out of fuel. You had Byron too, but he still did better.
All right, so the total points for this year, Jason, you're at 681. I'm at 661. Brandon, you're at 622. Brandon, once again, I think this is the third consecutive week that you are last place in both the week and in the entire tournament. So you get the first pick.
You gotta make
Who
it
would you like this
interesting,
week? And please do not take my guy, otherwise I'm going to have to say you can't have him.
I'm taking Eric Almirola, so feel free to take whoever you want.
Eric
Shots are
Almirola,
fired.
I
Eric
love
Almirola,
it. He
Eric
is
Almirola.
fucking sticking to it, man. I hope
winning the
this.
Quaker State 400 presented
I
by
hope
Walmart.
like this, like I do hope he wins now. Like
It's gonna
like,
bust. It's
as devoted and as all in as you are on this, I honestly hope for you. I hope it does. I really do. I'm gonna play some fucking Eric Almirola this week.
I haven't been this passionate about a play since Quinn Hoff at Nashville, and I haven't been that happy about a play since Derek Cope in the 500. So you know that Eric Almirola is about to wreck some shit in this race.
I mean, I liked Busher going this week, but now hearing how passionate you are about Eric Almirola, I might take that $600 discount. I don't know.
I think
now you've got me rethinking my position here.
Fuck.
All right, I'm going to take.
I'm also saving, two and done.
Where do you get to pick next? You won last week.
I thought we do season-long standings.
No,
I keep forgetting
it's a week prior.
Oh, all right, then you go. I don't think you're gonna take my guy anyways, so I don't even know who I'm taking.
I don't know.
My God, he asked for the pick and he didn't even know who he wanted to take. That's like the kid. That's like the kid who's like, I want to play with a toy, and then they get the toy and they don't actually want to play with the toy.
Yeah. Give me, I guess, give me Kyle fucking Busch. I don't know. I'll use him. I'll burn him here.
All right. So you're going to use Kyle Busch. I'm rethinking who I want to use, but I'm going to go with my gut. And my gut told me to play Austin Dillon this week.
I almost picked him, so that would have been awesome if I would have said Austin Dillon and then you said fuck.
So I do want to.
I was like listening for the first letter you were gonna say, and it almost sounded like there was an A coming out, and then you went to K, and I was like, thank God.
I also want to add that Eric Almirola and Austin Dillon are probably my favorite plays this week to get different, and I'll probably be overweight on both those. So.
Good.
So if either one of those does bad, you already know how my week went, regardless of who else I play.
I'm for sure with you on Austin Dillon. So I might get
clearly I am too. So, all right. Some other NASCAR news before we finish up this week. We already went over the Atlanta stuff. I think the only other big thing, I don't know if we talked much about it, if it was out before the last time we had the podcast of Trackhouse buying Chip Ganassi. So, Jason, basically that means that everything Chip Ganassi owns at the end of the season is now owned by Trackhouse, correct?
That's what it seems like to me, yeah. They get the building and everything, it looks like. So they
except the building.
Oh, except the building. They get to, What about the dumpster out back? They get to keep that?
They get to keep that, but they're paying for rent at the building.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's crazy. Like, I didn't see that coming at all. I did not see Chip Ganassi selling. I figured Trackhouse would pick up the second ride. I did not expect it like this. This was one that definitely kind of hit me out of the blue.
So going back to like buying charters and stuff like this, which anytime I just get to crap on 2311, I just find it, I have to do it now. It's like my thing. It's what I'm known for at this point. And so obviously Jordan's wanting to do a 2-car team next week or next year. And they haven't bought the second charter. And if they would have just done it earlier in the year, it would have saved them a ton of money. But now, Colleague bought 2 of them for $10 million each. Trackhouse just bought a team with another charter. MJ's about to get royally bent over for that chart, if he can even find it at this point.
Yeah, that's crazy. Who's left? It's just Rick Ware, right?
Yeah, Rick. Yeah, so if you're Rick Ware, man, I'm like $20 million. All the other ones sold.
He's got the money.
Anything else that I missed? Anything else that I missed NASCAR news wise?
What? Oh, besides that, the crash test dummies dying in the next gen car supposedly.
That's a rumor. I wish it was true, but it's not.
Have you heard the rumor, Ryan? Evidently, the crash test dummies are dying. It's a rumor, yes, but suppose this came from like a handful of sources.
Well, if the rumor's true, we'd rather it happen to when we
The
say
dummies,
we, I know I say I know at least me and Jason.
So
It
I
happens
also
to the
want to
dummies
say
before the actual humans get inside of it.
I try and put woo NASCAR anytime there's a cool looking wreck, regardless of who it is. And somebody sent me a message to be like, "Well, why didn't you do it when Justin Haley got in the wreck at Pocono?" And I was like, "I would have. I didn't see it happen live. I didn't see it till 20 minutes later." So yeah.
So just some general housekeeping news. So we are most likely not doing a podcast next week. Jason and I planned our vacations to make sure we were going away the same week.
We're not going together on vacation. I can swear to God we're not.
And we also did not plan that at all. That just happened to end up being the same week.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
I'm going down to Hilton Head, South Carolina.
That'll be fun. Some drinking, partying,
No,
boozing.
I'm going with my parents and my brother.
Still, you can still go with your parents and brother and do
it's a
some
nice
boozing.
little family vacation. Oh yeah, and it's a nice little family vacation where the parents pay for everything. So
Hilton Head's a good place to sling that D.
Hilton Head was actually the place we went, like, for me as a kid. Like, this is probably like my 10th, 12th year there, so it's been awesome. It's been cool, like, you go as a kid as like a 10-year-old, and then you go as like, a guy able to drink. It's like you look at the island very differently.
I'm going fishing, like St. Clair.
I haven't.
Walleye.
I've never been fishing.
Going for some walleye, maybe some perch.
Where's that?
Hopefully a big old muskie. Lake St. Clair is in Michigan.
Okay.
It's between like Lake Huron and Lake Erie. It connects the two, kind of.
So that's
where the Erie Canal is, right?
Erie Canal leads
so
up to Lake St. Clair, and then you got like we're going to be on the North Channel, so the channel that leads towards Lake Huron.
So we're going to figure out, so after we're off next week, then they're off for a couple weeks. I believe Watkins Glen, August 8th, is the next time the Cup races. I think there's 2 or 3 weeks off. I don't know what the math is. But, we might do a show or two. We'll see if anything comes up, or sometimes something comes across like Brandon's mind. He just posts it, in our group chat, and, that's, hey, let's record a 40-minute podcast on it or something like that. So we may be off for a couple weeks if there's nothing to talk about, but, hopefully we'll find something to talk about. Or
maybe we'll talk about an Xfinity race, right?
Yeah, we could do something like that, or if there's any interest in something like that, I definitely think that's possible. But for this week, Jason, let them know where they can find any of your content.
You can find my content at www.freenascardfs.com. Follow me on Twitter at DFSNASCAR. I'll be doing Xfinity and Cup Series this weekend. I will not be doing Truck Series. Like I said, I'll be going out of town, so I don't feel like putting the time into this debacle of a truck race we're probably going to see on Saturday afternoon or whenever it ends up being. So I'm probably not putting any content out for that. I'm just going to wing a lineup for that one. But find my Xfinity Cup Series stuff, www.freenascardfs.com.
Brandon, where can they find your stuff?
Brandon Cruz DFS, YouTube, Patreon, Twitter. Most of my stuff's already out anyway right now, other than the live shows this week for all 3. So if you want to sit there and watch it rain at Knoxville with me tomorrow, feel free to hop in the chat.
And guys, as always, make sure you remember check out my stuff, especially this weekend. I'll have a couple NASCAR things, as well as the UFC this weekend for the McGregor fight. BetWithBommel.com, gambling DFS tips on Twitter. You can DM me there. Make sure you guys, we always are open to suggestions for the podcast, especially, if there's a couple weeks off where there's maybe not things to talk about, so we can go over some Xfinity or truck stuff. But if anybody has any ideas or anything they want us to kind of talk about, we can. Jason?
The one thing I do want to ask y'all to, since we're going to have some time off probably the next couple of weeks, you take that time to leave us a review on wherever you're listening to this at, YouTube, iTunes, whatever. It helps us out a lot, guys. We're trying to grow the show. We appreciate you listening, but just please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment, leave us a review. It helps out greatly.
And honestly, that's something that, like, I always used to watch, like, YouTube videos and never subscribe to anything, and then realize, like, how much, just literally taking 1 second to click a button, how much it actually helps, the people doing the podcast. And, ever since then, obviously, make sure you subscribe, so sometimes you got to understand how much it actually does help. But Jason, like you said, thank you guys for listening. It's definitely been a good first season of it. Hopefully plan to do a lot more of this. I think it's going better than we expected, or at least just as well as we expected. I think we kind of didn't really know what going into it, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Like I said, we're always open to suggestions, anything like that. So on behalf of Jason and Brandon, I am Ryan. Thank you guys for listening, and may your lineups be winning ones this week.
Woo, NASCAR.